So what is the digital economy? And that's a really important question. And if you ask 10 people in the industry, you'd probably get 12 different answers. We've debated it for a good few months and found that it's any economic activity that is enabled by telecoms infrastructure and mediated by software. And the more I think about it, the more I think that that's a really good, solid definition. And essentially you can boil it down into sort of three different categories of goods and services. There are those that are intrinsically digital, that's things like online streaming video services like Netflix. There are those that have been virtualized or have been made digital. So that includes the virtualization of parts of the network infrastructure, so NFV for example. And then there are those things which are physical goods and services which are mediated or sold online. So that includes, say, the business of eBay or Amazon. So why should you care about the digital economy? Well, if you're a telecoms operator, then you're operating in an increasingly competitive and saturating environment. The relationship that you're having with your customers is changing, primarily because of these digital economy players. If you're a software vendor, then you're facilitating and you're enabling that evolution. The really tricky thing, I think, is getting the timing right of when you're bringing products and services to market, because basically the market needs to realize that it needs those services. Too early and a software solution can flop, too late and someone else will have got there first. If you're an app developer or an OTT player, then you already exist entirely within the digital economy. It's essentially your lifeblood. So operators have a lot of challenges to overcome in the digital economy. For the last 10 years, I've been saying that they need to essentially transition their mindset beyond that of being an infrastructure-centric player. Taking the engineer's view on the world, it doesn't really work anymore. If you look at the kind of portable business models that we were looking at 15 years ago, those things have evolved into something real that now can be worth multi-billion dollars of revenue. If you look at players like Google, their revenues grew by 43% in the last 2 years. Facebook's grew by 154%. I can see why operators look at those businesses, which they enable, and they say, why can't I have a piece of that? Worldwide, Analysys Mason estimates that telecom service revenue is going to grow by just under 6% in the next 2 years, and that's several orders of magnitude smaller than the kind of digital economy revenue growth that we're talking about. But to some extent they're limited by maneuverability, by their need to keep shareholders happy, and also by risk, their attitudes to risk. And it's a big change in culture for them. But fundamentally, I think there are 5 important things that operators have going for them in the digital economy. Firstly, they've got deep pockets. They've got experience of asset management and moving around large amounts of cash, which is something that their small competitors outside of telecoms but within the digital economy don't have. Secondly, they've got established billing relationships. That's a two-way financial relationship with their customers, and that's important. Thirdly, they've got behavioural data. Certainly social media sites, etc., have access to various bits of information through tracking pixels and that kind of thing. That's a complicated catch-up game, and as the operating systems and browsers evolve, so it becomes harder to do that. The operators have the network information and they have better visibility of that data. Fourthly, operators have experience with high technology operations. So they're used to setting up data centers, they have experience with complex billing and OSS setups. And that stuff's important when you're playing in the digital economy. So the fifth thing that operators have going for them are the customer relationships that they have. It's about trust, it's about brand strength, it's about the relationship between the operator and their customers. Our recent Connected Consumer survey of Europe and the US indicated that telecoms operators tend to be more trusted than Facebook, than Google, than Amazon on average. In 4 out of the 7 countries that we surveyed, telecoms operators were more trusted than the national governments of those countries. I mean, that's fantastic brand value, and that's something that can really be built on in the digital economy. So in some respects, investing in the digital economy for operators is like gambling. We know that there are going to be certain winners. We're not necessarily sure yet which verticals, which opportunities, but really there's some potential market here. So we have some research called the Digital Economy Readiness Index, which identifies by verticals where operators are currently placing their chips, to extend the metaphor. Some operators are spreading their bets widely and thinly. They're placing lots of investment in lots of different opportunities. Some are carving specific niches in specific verticals. So 2 of the ones that I think are quite significant to look at right now are mobile financial services and mobile fitness and health. If you look at mobile financial services, their use has more than doubled on smartphones in the last 2 years, from about 30% to 80% of users now use some form of mobile financial services application. I think the next opportunity is going to be in mobile fitness and mobile health. Right now, under 20% of smartphone users are using those kinds of applications, and I think that's going to multiply really quite significantly in the next couple of years.